I am aware that like I'm living the dream, really.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by people I love. I'm doing things for people I love. We do these things for our families, right?
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
We do it to show it for the people we love. And the people we love can be, you know, can be as small as our children, our partners, or it can be a wider community, you know, and either way, you know, whether you're looking to serve those people or the wider community, you know, sort of being able to show up in that way to help other people.
Yeah.
And yeah, if there's a give and take, cool. You know,
Yeah.
so be it. That's life.
Mr. Joe Glover, welcome to the HoLT Survival Guide for Small Businesses.
Thank you.
It's so nice to finally meet you.
Likewise.
And for you to have made the journey all the way up to Manchester for it. But before we get started, could you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Of course. I've got Bronson here on my lap, so I am having a great time. Well, he might have just farted, so that's a great start.
Oh, sorry. He's getting old.
So I'm Joe. I founded something called the Marketing Meetup 9 years ago now. The Marketing Meetup is a community for marketers. There's about 50,000 of us around the world. We run about 190 events this year.
That gives me anxiety just thinking about
You know, it's life now. But the most important thing about the Marketing Meetup is that it's a space where we've coined this term, you know, to be positively lovely, which is that it's a space where people could come together, look after each other, respect each other's humanity and sort of look to give rather than look to get. It's a place which hopefully folks feel safe. And so we show up online and in person, but very much in the spirit of looking after each other.
And so it's people who work in any area of marketing across the world. 50,000's a lot, isn't it? That's incredible.
Yeah, it's wild. It's one of those, you know, like I think, you know, even on these things on a community level, you know, I think quite often it's, you know, you look at the social media stats and it's like 250,000, but like that's not really what we mean by the community. You know, the community is those 50,000 folks who are engaged in some way or another. And yeah, it's a lot of people. It's a blessing. And
I think one of the things that I've always resonated with since I first started following you, and I think how long ago, 9 years ago you started the Marketing Meetup, but I don't think it had really gained the massive traction when I first came across you on LinkedIn. And I always got this vibe from the content that you put out of like, and I don't mean this in an emasculating way, but a gentleness about you. And a kindness and a calmness. And I really loved that because it's so different from maybe the stereotype around marketing. It's always quite, I've always felt it's much more for like extroverts, the creative extroverts, the people that are, I guess marketing, it's all about attention seeking, right? And so you kind of have an assumption that it's around these people that are super comfortable in the limelight or, you know, the center of attention type of people. But you're not like that at all. And I really resonated with you were quite open about being an introvert. And I'm an introvert, much to a lot of people's surprise. But I've found myself in a situation where I need to get attention to run my business. As an introvert, how did you first come up with the idea for the Marketing Meetup and build it around yourself and make it so comfortable for people that are introverted to be in?
I think it's one of those things that you kind of pointed it out in your answer there, that there are people who feel that way, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, the foundation story of the Marketing Meetup is that I knew that I wanted to meet other marketers and learn about marketing, but whenever I went to networking events in the traditional sense, then I didn't feel particularly comfortable. And I didn't feel comfortable because I'd walk in and folks would either be stood in those circles or like you'd say, you know, I remember one occasion I sort of walked up to a group of people and like I said, "Hi, I'm Joe." And at the time I was a marketing manager in a small agency, and I could literally just sort of see them not be interested in me because my job title didn't match their expectations. I didn't work for this big brand. I worked for an agency, and, you know, budget.
That sort of traditional and I used to experience it when I used to socialize in the music industry. Yeah. People were always looking over your shoulder to see if there's someone more important to speak to.
Exactly that.
So it feels absolutely degrading and embarrassing. You're like, oh God, and you never want to go back.
No, it's just it's a lack of respect for other people's humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the Marketing Meetup is really an exercise into leaning into that, sort of acknowledging that those things are real and go, that's a bit weird that we do that. Yeah. Why don't we do something that's nicer and kinder and look at the person in front of us and sort of
you never know who that person's going to be in 5 years' time anyway. If you burn a bridge by disrespecting someone or ignoring someone at that stage, like aside from just their humanity and treating them like a valuable person, you could be shooting yourself massively in the foot.
Of course you could. I mean, 9 years into this journey now, we've sort of been on the journey with a lot of folks, and they're now in that sort of that impressive job title or whatever it may be, but as much as anything else, you got to know them. I keep finding out what people's jobs are. These days, people who are known for years, and you go, oh wait, you actually do something that's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, to the point of your question, when it comes to that introversion, it's like, well, let's not see this as a weakness or as a counter, just sort of say, well, let's create a space which feels comfortable for those folks.
Yeah.
And acknowledge that I'm not the only one. And, I didn't know I wasn't the only one. I just put a group up on meetup.com and 100 people signed up with the values that we sort of
And it started
espoused.
all from there.
Yeah. And so
50,000 people in under 10 years. Do you ever just think back on it and go, God, that's wild? Like,
I think of it as a wild journey to a certain extent, but you and I were speaking about this before.
Yeah.
And there was kind of this sense that, like, I don't think either of us would reflect on anything that we've necessarily done and go, God, that's impressive, or whatever. And I think both of us have probably had people tell us that it is. And so that's the reason why hopefully that doesn't come across as a really arrogant statement. But like, it's only for other people to say that, I think, and I don't really go.
It just feels kind of like inevitable, for us, I suppose, as marketers. You see an opportunity, you take it, you leverage it, you go on to the next opportunity, you take a risk, you just follow it through, you're riding the wave, you're just going with the flow and seeing what happens and going, oh, this is cool. Let's try that as well. Oh, that worked. Let's try that as well. And it's the excitement and the thrill of that, trying and succeeding or trying and failing and fixing it and then trying again. That's all super exciting. And then you sort of get to this pinnacle where people are going, oh my God, wow. And you're like, well, yeah, but like loads of crap happened along the way. This wasn't all like, I didn't plan for all of this to happen. It wasn't some grand scheme.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So it doesn't really feel that impressive, does it? When you're there, you're just going,
I just did a thing.
I just sort of feel I stumbled across it.
That's it. You try your best, and then you probably got a set of values that drive you along the way, right? That sort of define those choices.
So you, the positively lovely people thing, the little plus sign that you've got in the logo, like all of that resonates so much with me. That real human first networking, not worrying about what someone's job title is, just like getting to know them as a person. And that's something I'm really, really hot on with my community as well, is we get to know each other because we want to get to know each other. We want to have fun together, and the business relationship kind of comes second. And it's not like, what can I get from you? It's what can I do for you? How can I help you? And that works so beautifully well. But kindness can often be taken advantage of. And sometimes marketing can be ruthless, but business in general is ruthless. I'd love to know, like, how do you think it's been a real positive for you in the business to have that real focus on kindness, but also maybe a time where you felt you could have been taken advantage of, or someone's thrown up a red flag and you've gone, this isn't our kind of person? Like, 'cause kindness can be it is the most amazing value to have, but there are people that will take advantage of it or manipulate you because of that. Has there ever been an instance?
The thing that I would probably say is it's not so much a specific story. I'd say there are, of course, folks who come along to, our events and stuff like that, where they're not necessarily in the spirit of what we intended when they show up for the first time.
What are your red flags then how do you know?
So those folks would be the folks who immediately start handing out business cards before they started a conversation, or the folks who, are doing the sales pitch, I am X, and I am from Y, and do you need Z, before you've even started, whatever. And the thing about, and this is why I always come back to this values thing, and I think this is so important for small business owners and for people building their businesses, which is like, what are the things that you stand for? And so this is I think the best marketing thing that we've done over the course of time is not so much being great at sort of like TikTok or anything like that, but it's been about communicating our values. And so this Be Positively Lovely thing, this wasn't something that we had from the beginning. This was something that quite organically sort of surfaced after 6 months. And since that time, we've communicated that regularly, clearly, through every touch point that we have through the community, whether that's through the online sign up, whether that's the online forms, whether that's at the beginning of the events.
Yeah.
And now hopefully like people self-select in or out. And so it's one of those things where like those people probably have come. They probably have acted in a way which is counter to what we expected.
Yeah.
But I bet they didn't come back.
Or if they did come back, they came back and did it differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they realised, I can drop the act here. I don't have to be that version of myself.
Exactly. And for what it's worth, I have a certain view on the world, right? I like to think that generally looking after each other, good things come around. But other people, live in that ruthless environment. And it's actually not for me to judge and sort of say that's the wrong way. Yeah. It's just for me to say, you know what? It's not for me.
It's not our way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, we've got something similar with the HoLT. Our tagline is where square pegs fit perfectly. Because we really are. There's a lot of people in there that are perfectly ordinary in inverted commas. Yeah. But there's also a lot of people that feel like misfits in the business world. And similar to the Marketing Meetup people, it's people that don't really like that formal networking environment. Sure. They want to laugh and joke and have fun and mess about a little bit and not be judged for not knowing something and asking what they might think is a stupid question, but it's not a stupid question. Like we all had those at the beginning, but organically the phrase "no knobs allowed" has become one of our taglines that people really remember. And it's the same kind of thing. Be positively lovely. We've just gone for the negative as no knobs allowed. And if you sort of think I might, probably a bit knobbish, aren't I? I'm like a hard sales pitchy person. Yeah. And we don't really get those kinds of people in. No. And it's about communicating your values. We're not really our kind of person. Assuming they have the self-awareness to realise they are a bit of a knob.
Well, but I think I love everything you said there, because like that so speaks to like, I think people will often think about community building as an exercise in community building, i.e. I need to get more people coming along to my thing, a larger social following or whatever it is. The thing that I think we do as our jobs is not build community. We build culture. Yeah. A community by its very nature is one that is owned by the community, where the community drive it, where the community shape it, the community take it where they'd like to. The thing that we need to do, you and I, is the culture bit.
And that's so focused, isn't it? Because I see a lot of people talking about community. It's a huge thing, especially this year. Everybody wants to get into the subscription model. Everyone wants that recurring income. Everyone wants a community. But so many people mistake a community and a membership. And maybe you agree, maybe you've got your own thoughts on it. But for me, a membership is like the leader has a relationship with lots of clients. But do the people in it have a relationship with one another?
Absolutely.
With the Marketing Meetup, it's absolutely evident, because you were saying there are people that don't even get your name right. They have no idea that you are the founder, which is amazing to me. I'm like, I love that you can fly under the radar like that. And that one day I would love to have the HoLT be like that. It's community led with an amazing team, but no one really knows who owns it because it's owned by the people.
That's it.
But I have a relationship with all of the customers, or certainly as many as I can. I mean, it's getting very difficult to manage that. But they have relationships with each other and they really build on those and they nurture those together. Yeah. And I'm technically still like the leader, but it's not about their relationship with me. It's about nurturing those like intertwined relationships with each other. And that's the difference between a community for me. And I don't see that with that many of these communities that are popping up.
No, but I think this also relates to your first question about the introversion and marketers and stuff like that, which is that, the reason why hopefully, I can survive in a marketing environment, we can survive in a marketing environment, we can be community folks, is because the whole point of marketing is that you're doing something for the customer, right? Yeah,
service.
Exactly. And in the same sense, I wouldn't use the word customer for folks in the Marketing Meetup community. You'd say community members, but like it's the same skill set in a way, which is that, customer orientation, community member orientation, which is like, this is about you, If we provide something for you, yes, of course, there is a material benefit in terms of a financial exchange, which, by the way, I think a lot of people can get quite nervous about, especially when they're starting a small business. I know that I did. I was terrified of money.
Yeah,
but
same.
That's okay if you're providing value for folks as well, right? Yeah. But fundamentally, it's such a strength if you care about the people you want to help, whether that's as a small business owner, like really, really caring about your customer base, or as a community leader, really, really caring and just being there for your folks that you want to help.
I think, like, I've noticed on LinkedIn that there's definitely sort of a division with people where you've got these kind of ruthless business people where it's make money at any cost, hustle bros, everything's about how much cash you're making at the end of the month. And then there's the very service-based people that are really focused on customer experience and building relationships. I've never really identified with that whole get rich at any cost, work yourself into the ground, everything's done to impress others. I'm probably hyping myself up a little bit too much, and this isn't really, but there is that sort of idea about LinkedIn, and that's the sum of the people on there. Everyone's in this massive circle jerk, excuse the phrase, but it's definitely perceived like that sometimes. But I've definitely been on the other, not saying I don't see those people, but I've definitely been on the other side where it's so much about helping one another. And I was inspired to double down on that and create something even more like private, safe, but with that same kind of energy. How did you first grow it? So you had this 100 people in the meetup.com. Where did it go from there to continue? Like, what were you using? Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn primarily? Where are you finding these people?
So primarily in the first few years, so this is like 2016 or something like that, it was through meetup.com. And so we would spring out a new meetup.com page in each of our respective locations. So this, at the time, I was working as a marketing manager in an agency, the same agency I spoke about earlier. And, two things happened. The first was that people came to the Cambridge event, which was the first one, and they'd come up to me and sort of say, I've enjoyed this. Can I run one in Bedford? Sort of, I've travelled 45 minutes to, which was wicked, The other thing that happened was that people sort of said to me, we'd love this in London, or we'd love this in Norwich, or we'd love it in Newcastle. I don't know why Newcastle came so early, because it was very, very far away, and I would be running it myself. And so in the evenings or weekends or whatever, I'd be traveling to these places to run these events myself. And so, but each time it was using meetup.com. As it was, and this is another reflection from the very, very early days, that became a real problem because the audience kind of got stuck in meetup.com. We didn't have the data for folks when COVID happened. And so there was a wild moment, where I think around the time of COVID, we had maybe 130 events planned or something like that. I'd gone full time in April 2019, so it was sort of 8-9 months into full time stuff. On a commercial level, as a quote unquote events business. And of course, the events stopped. And so the saving grace for us was that we had an email newsletter list of like 2,300 people or something like that. And so we were able to go out to folks at that point and sort of start the webinar program.
And that's, I think, the first time we got to know each other, right? Because I did one of your webinars. Was it during COVID? Around that time?
It must have been, because you've done a couple for us. And so, it must have been sort of towards the tail end of that sort of COVID period of time, which was the real sort of boost, sort of lift off period for,
and that's
for the
where
community.
it's really started getting seen on social media as well.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it?
And it proper exploded after that, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I mean, again, I guess if you look at it purely from the numbers perspective, then you probably see on a graph and you go, it really went wild.
Especially if people were desperate for that connection. Running your own business takes courage, dedication, and hard work. That's why over 100,000 small businesses and freelancers count on Kudos to protect what matters most. Kudos understands that your business is more than just your work. It's your passion, your livelihood, and your future. Their policies and award-winning service are designed to give you complete peace of mind so you can focus on what you do best, running your business. Head to kudoscontractor.com to learn more and use code LEA10 at checkout to get 10% off your first policy, subject to eligibility. What I've witnessed is, that COVID year, we were very much we're all at home. We can't go out anywhere. Yeah. We're all on Clubhouse and things like that, trying to get adult conversation, especially when we've got small children. It's like, I just want an adult conversation, And then we've kind of embraced this kind of home working thing for the last few years. But I've really felt people are craving to get back face to face, especially last year. Yeah. It feels like things are moving much more towards going back into the office, seeing people face to face, going to in-person events, which I'm excited about because I do, as much as I am an introvert, I do thrive off comfortable social interactions with people that I know and being face to face with people because I spend too much time on my own. Yeah. But where do you see it going from here? Because you still do stuff online as well, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're doing things in person. And how many countries are you in now? Do you know?
I don't know how many countries. We're on 5 continents. So
5. Yeah. I mean, there's only 6, right?
6 or 7, I don't know.
6 or 7. That's pretty damn good going. In 9 years, it's unbelievable that you're having such a big impact. What's your day-to-day involvement with it now? How much time are you putting into it?
Well, I'm full-time. It's a funny thing. So even in the past few weeks, I've been reflecting on this. So part of this conversation was this sort of sense of it would be great to get to the point where, the Homer Simpson meme, where he kind of just backs into the bush and disappears.
Yeah, that's you.
I'd love to do that, and so I'd love to get to that point. On the very operational level, so the running of the events, that kind of thing, I'm almost not involved at all. So Elle, who's our head of events, who is the world's nicest person, she is just
would she be anything less working for you?
She is sunshine. She is sunshine itself. She was our first hire, and I couldn't be more proud of her as a human being and to associate myself with her as well.
Please don't leave her.
No, exactly. There's definitely a subtext there. So she handles so much when it comes to the in-person events.
Yeah. I
do a lot of the webinar stuff in terms of the curation, hosting them, that kind of thing. But I'd love to get to a place where we just hired our 4th person, so 4th full-time member.
I can't believe that you've got such a lean team and you run...
It's wild, isn't it?
That's impressive.
Well, there's full credit to the organisers as well. So we have local organisers running the events close to them as well. And there's about 100 of them around the world. So it depends who we're trying to impress. We've either got a team of 4 or 104. So it depends what you want to say. But
we're being real here.
Yeah, exactly. But, so there are so many people involved and, like we said earlier, some of them don't know my name, but I sort of see that in a really positive light because I'm this thing isn't about me, and I want to be there to support them. But equally, if they know the values and they know the spirit in which things are set up, then there we go. So for me, it's now a moment of discovery, which is what do I do here? And so this year is about taking some really big shots, and sort of going who are the speakers that we have no right to get on our stage?
Your big dominoes.
Yeah.
As I don't know if you know Andrew and Pete, that's what they describe them as, big dominoes. Okay. They did a talk at Atomicon last year where they're saying be audacious.
Right. Yeah.
When you first start out, work out what your big domino is. Nice. There's absolutely no way I would have any chance whatsoever of being able to do this.
Yeah, love
and
that.
theirs was social media. I think they said social media world. They wanted to speak on stage there. So they had to find out what all the steps were that they would need to take to get that.
Amazing.
And they literally doubled down to make sure they did that.
I love that so much.
And I think like, I've had a few people who it clearly resonated with them, and maybe they've done newsletters or content about it, but they've come to me and said things like, I'd love to get you on my podcast.
You're my domino.
You're my big domino. And the minute they say that, I'm like, hopefully no, everyone's not going to be messaging me this big domino, but I'm like, oh my God, imagine being someone's big domino. What are your big dominoes?
I don't want to give them away in case I'm massively.
But you might speak it into existence.
Yeah, honestly. I think the thing for me is that I have an awareness that there are certain folks that we get along. I would love to get more folks from outside the marketing industry coming to speak to the Marketing Meetup. Folks who have interesting life experiences. I've got a list of 50, so like,
wow.
But I think there's probably something here which is like, I love how Andrew and Pete and how you sort of relayed that message, because it makes so much sense. I think it's one of the themes of this conversation in general, which is just not being afraid to try. And so I am a quieter person, but blooming hell, I think I'm a thoughtful person too.
Yeah.
So if I can put together the most thoughtful approach that I possibly could to Barack Obama, or whatever,
I wouldn't put anything past you with what you've achieved.
Well,
and because you do it with such kindness.
There's a funny thing. So we've got a board and we've got a chairperson, and our chairperson sort of laughs at me sometimes, and he says, You're such a contradiction in the sense that you can be massively unconfident about some things and then massively confident about others. And so in a sense, I kind of believe, I kind of don't. Maybe Barack Obama's like the crazy universe sort of thing, but you never know.
Even Stephen Bartlett's not got him yet.
Exactly. But it's like, who knows? Who knows you could. But there's other things which I'm just like terrified of, and won't touch with the bar.
What's something that scares you?
So financials used to be something, and like there's an ickiness around sort of like, particularly with community, the sense that, hey, you can be making money from building a community and sort of speaking about kindness, but also have capitalism and commercialism as part of this. That was a me thing, because actually what you realize is that so many people are like rooting for you. Yeah. And they're just like, of course, I hope you're getting paid. I hope you're able to feed your family.
It is a weird, uncomfortable thing because you feel like you're kind of doing the right thing. Do you support any? Because one of the things that I find helps me to feel more comfortable about that is where I'm giving back. So like charity work, and sort of things that we do that go above and beyond, which I'm sure you do in the Marketing Meetup, is the above and beyond stuff. So although they're paying for the HoLT, they're £65 a month, right? But what we give them for that £65 a month is enormous. And that's me. That's my inner poor person with a terrible money mindset that goes, I have to massively really over deliver to make it worth that money and for me to feel good about charging it.
£65 is a big deal for a lot of people, right?
And for the people that we want to attract, often they're very much at the beginning of their business. And some of them are very far along and they're there for the community and the sport. But I'm like £65. I remember when I was absolutely skint, barely making ends meet. I needed what the HoLT would have given me back then.
Absolutely.
And it did feel like a lot of money.
Absolutely. And you're right. I mean, that thing about what the HoLT will give you, know, it's a wider lesson, which is like, so often you don't do these things alone, right? And if it wasn't for my chairperson, if it wasn't for my co-founder, if it wasn't for Elle, if it wasn't for the organisers, if it weren't for the community,
it wouldn't be what it is. And they don't work for free because to give it, and that's the thing, isn't it? They need to earn from it. You need to earn from it because you can't make it as good as it can be if there's no finances involved. Therefore people will understand, but it's such a weird place to be, like the asking for money to give them something. If we could give it to people for free, we absolutely would. Maybe that's the goal.
Maybe, I love the idea of the community one day owning the community, like having the shareholding sort of stuff,
that would be incredible. Or just some like marketing giant that just says, hey, here's loads of money. Do what you want with it.
Absolutely. That would be nice.
That would be the dream. I would love that. If anyone wants to give me millions, that would be absolutely great. It's so where do you see it going? Like, it's obviously, I'm going to assume, far bigger than you ever expected, or you could have ever imagined that it would go, right? How big do you feel like it could go? And how long, like, do you see yourself being involved with it? Like, is this something you're going to grow to 20 million? Like, And are you still going to be doing it in your 50s? Like,
I hope, I mean, I don't know whether I've spoken about this publicly necessarily. I don't want to be doing it in my 50s necessarily. Not because I don't find it enjoyable, but life is so rich, right? And there is so much to be done. I think there's a weird paradox even in that, because even as I say those words, I am aware that, like, I'm living the dream, really.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by people I love. I'm doing things for people I love. I
beautiful family, work that gives you purpose and fulfillment. Yeah.
And so I'll do it for as long as it makes sense. As long as I'm helpful, as long as I'm helpful to folks, then I'll carry on. TMM didn't always exist, and it doesn't always have to exist. I'd like to think that people want it to exist.
There'll be someone that wants to step in and take over.
Maybe one day. So, we'll figure it out. But, like, I haven't got any concrete plans. And in terms of how big it goes, then I've not spent a lot of time sort of thinking about a grand vision. What I have a sense of is there are marketers out there who are competent but not necessarily confident. There are people who are amazing but they're alone. There are people at the beginning of their journey with so much, enthusiasm and intelligence, but just know where to go and get it, or a specific direction. And for the most part, I think we're doing a fairly good job of helping them. And so I think if we continue to do that, even on Tuesday, you sort of see a LinkedIn post coming up after a webinar where someone said, I didn't know a webinar could do this, but it's literally changed my life. And it's like, freaking heck,
Is
cool.
that the thing that gives you the most purpose though? Because I know for me, when I see someone sent me a video testimonial yesterday. She's only just joined the membership.
Yeah.
And she sent me, it was just like a 1-minute testimonial about her experiences joining, and my heart literally jumped into my mouth. I was like, oh my God, this feels so good to know something that I've created, even though I feel uncomfortable saying that. I've created the thing. I've given them the conduit. They've run with it. The people are what makes the community so great.
Yeah.
But when I have those moments, that's the bit that makes me the very happiest. It's not the money coming into the bank. It's none of that. It's the impact and hearing about it.
Of course.
And I get that's the same for you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the discomfort, and I don't say this as a good trait or an enviable trait, is that I don't really recognize it or register it in some ways. I recognize how incredible it is, but I don't own it and go, I did that.
Exactly right. I look at it and I go, I'm so proud of the other members for making her experience great. Exactly. I'm so proud that she's come in and actually embraced getting to know people and had a good experience and tried the masterclasses and done this and done that. I'm like, I feel proud of them, not me, because you just start something and they've run with it.
Of course.
And you're just going, okay, right, I just need to keep up with it and make sure everything's running smoothly and let them get on with it, kind of thing. Absolutely. It's an interesting one. It really is. How do you think, like, imagine if you hadn't started the Marketing Meetup.
Yeah.
Where do you think you'd be now if that hadn't happened?
I'd like to think I'd be a professional footballer playing for Man United. I don't know.
Because you were very young when you started I mean, you're 24. Still very young now.
Well,
obviously,
thank you, Leah. Thank you very much.
I have to say that because I'm older than you.
Honestly, I'm 33, but I look 53 sometimes. So
you don't. But 33, so 24, that's a lot at 24, and for 33 to have achieved so much, you could be retired by 40.
Maybe that'd be nice. That would be nice. It's funny, isn't it? Because I think even in that, some people would probably listen to that thing and go, either he is young or whatever. But I couldn't start the Marketing Meetup again today. I've got 2 kids now. And so that's sort of heading to Newcastle on a random evening, or heading to Norwich on a random evening, or even going to London, and even those events not being packed out or whatever, it's not been a success all the time. I remember standing outside the London event, because there were free events to start off with, we had 80 people signed up and 15 people turned up. And the demoralizing. Yeah. And, that as an experience, had I been in 33-year-old Joe's shoes,
you might have gone,
stuff it, I've given up the kids' bedtime for this or whatever,
Yeah.
And so, it is one of those right time, right place things as well. Yeah, I've forgotten what the question was, Leah.
So have I.
I'm sure it was a great one, though.
I said, what would you be doing if you hadn't started Marketing Meetup? Where do you feel like you'd be now? Obviously, apart from starting at Old Trafford.
Yeah. Well, apart from that, it's funny, isn't it? Because we were speaking about this before we came on today. That to give an example, we were walking around the conference venue. So we're running a conference on the 30th of March this year. It's the first time I've ever done something like this. And within, a very, very small circle of folks within the marketing industry, some people might recognize me. That is a thing which has objectively happened, and therefore I can't reject it and say, this is rubbish. It has happened.
He's not bigging himself up as some sort of marketing celebrity guru.
Yeah. But we're walking around and we're being shown around by quite a broad, extroverted chap who was sort of speaking about the venue and stuff like that. And in that moment, I just felt like a very quiet person, and he had no sort of awareness that I was the owner of the company or anything like that.
Yeah.
I kind of just felt like how I used to feel as that sort of 24-year-old marketer, sort of hiding behind the CEO of the company, sort of in the meeting and stuff like that. And so in a sense, I think what this illustrates is that I've just found something that I am good at, that I found a happy place where I can show up as myself. And for whatever reason, people resonate with it, have engaged with it. And, now we're sat in the studio together, sort of recording a podcast, and it feels like a thing, Yeah. So the honest truth is, I don't know, I probably wouldn't be doing something where I felt like I could show up as myself quite as much, because this is just this is it, It's been a series of decisions made on gut and intuition and just trying to do the right thing. And so I'd probably be less happy, whatever it is.
I think that's really powerful as well, to be able to say you are following your gut and your initiative at what is objectively a very young age. I don't feel like I really got confident in trusting my gut, not in terms of business, until the last few years.
Right.
And I was like, right, I'm doing something that I'm objectively I'm clearly good at it because I've made money and made it a success. But I don't think I trusted myself, and that you would sort of trusting your gut and your instincts as someone in their 20s.
Yeah, well,
is
and how does that feel different for you? Like, what's the transformation?
I think I'm just more confident in backing myself in business. Like if something goes wrong, I think I've always been quite confident in backing myself in the other aspects of my life. If things go wrong, statistically speaking, I've always managed to come back from it.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'll probably be all right. But I don't think I ever felt that way in business. I always just thought there's not many things I'm very good at.
Yeah.
And my first business was, very, very low in terms of what I earned. And I didn't realize I was good at marketing until I was surrounded by people on LinkedIn going, you're actually quite good at this.
Yeah.
And it took other people pointing out my strengths for me to actually recognize them.
Right.
Because I don't ever, and I don't know, maybe that's like an introvert thing, maybe it's a neurodivergent thing. I don't know if you find the same. Sometimes it's other people that go, yeah, you're actually really good at this. And I go,
yeah.
Am I? They go, yeah, but this, and this. I'm like, I guess there's quite a lot of evidence. I need that evidence to prove it. And then I can take it forward and be like, okay, I am good at this stuff.
Yeah.
Lots of things I'm terrible at.
Yeah.
So many things I'm terrible at.
But it's lovely to own that.
But it's playing to your strengths, isn't it?
That's it. I take... I think there's one of those, those really long German words, to describe a feeling or something like that, where you can kind of... I get so much joy from seeing other people being joyful.
Yeah.
And in a sense, I can see that with you, that sort of, that sense of pride, when someone owns it and kind of goes, I'm okay at this.
Yeah.
Or not even I'm okay, I'm really good at this.
But not even in like an arrogant or pretentious way. It's just like, if you have to look objectively at the facts, if you're doing this thing and you're getting positive results, you are good at it.
Yeah, and you're allowed to say that.
And it's not, and it's so, especially I guess for women and British people. We're you know, it's such a British thing. Yeah. Oh, don't blow your own, don't blow your own trumpet. You know, be humble. Yeah. But actually, if you're marketing, you can't market yourself as a product, which we essentially are when we're service providers. If you're constantly going, oh no, I'm not very good at that. That's it. They're just going to hire someone who says they're good at it, that can prove it.
It's such a good point. And I was speaking to someone the other day, and so you and I have both done stuff on LinkedIn over the past few years, and it's a lot of how we've grown our businesses. Yeah. And I was speaking to someone the other day who was quite reticent about posting on LinkedIn. And the vibe I got, rather than something they said overtly, was, you know, that they felt like they would be portraying themselves as a guru, or, you know, that, well, predominantly that, you know, they were fearful that they would think other people would think they were arrogantly portraying themselves as like, I know something and whatever. And it's just not that, you know, and there's almost like that smugness. There is always going to be that crowd who will kind of smirk or judge or, you know, belittle folks for putting themselves out there. I mean, to speak to the Britishness, I think that is one of the things we learn in school. You know, if you show enthusiasm for something,
everyone else goes, shut up.
Cut you down. Yeah. And so, you know, but to be enthusiastic, you know, to care, you know, and to sort of own that sort of like, either own your story, you know, sort of say, I'm a quieter person, but this is that. Or, you know, sort of generously share and look to help people. That's a glorious thing, you know, it should be celebrated. And so there's these reframes that we can do on these traits that we have.
I always try and reframe people when people say like, oh, I'm just terrified of, you know, I don't want to be seen as a guru, or that I'm arrogant, or I think I'm better than other people, or I'm bigging myself up too much. I'm like, but if you're a service provider, which most of the people on LinkedIn are, like online service providers if they're self-employed, if you were selling a pair of shoes, you would talk about how soft the leather is, how that it's been handmade, how long lasting they are, how good value for money they are. You talk about all of these things because that's how you sell them. You talk about all the amazing features. But if you are the product and your knowledge is the thing that you're selling, you can't sell it if you're only ever talking negatively about it or not talking about it at all.
Absolutely.
Because people will just go and hire someone who is talking about all the amazing features. You just have to divide yourself and say, there's me, the real person, and then there's the product that I'm selling. And it's my job as the person to talk about all the benefits and features of me as a product. And you have to detach those things. That's the only way I've managed to do it.
Right. It's really interesting.
Is detaching the two people that I am.
Yeah. But and I'm going to remove you from this because I don't, you know, I haven't got your permission to speak in the personal terms about it, you know, but we do these things for our families, right?
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
We do it to show it for the people we love. And the people we love can be, you know, can be as small as our children, our partners, or it can be a wider community, you know, and either way, you know, whether you're looking to serve those people or the wider community, you know, sort of being able to show up in that way to help other people. Yeah. And if there's a give and take, cool. You know, so be it. That's life.
I've really enjoyed this chat with you, Joe. It's been a very, very, very long time coming. And I am going to be at your conference in March. So I'm really looking forward to it. And if it's not sold out already by the time, I think it might have actually happened by the time people hear this episode. So,
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Supporting small business owners is my biggest passion. And that's what my membership community, the HoLT, is all about. Inside the HoLT are more than 150 masterclasses from experts in every business skill you could ever want, and we add more every single month. There are also sales clinics, tech clinics, wellbeing support and advice, and discounts on a huge range of software and services. But it's so much more than just trainings and resources. Everyone inside the HoLT shares their years of knowledge and experience generously, with kindness and without judgment. They're super active, the chat channels are buzzing, and it's like having 600 business cheerleaders in your pocket, willing you to succeed and helping you wherever they can. And we offer all of this and much more at an extremely low price, because we know that budgets are tight when you're bootstrapping a business. The HoLT is a kind, inclusive and non-judgmental place where everyone knows that working together is the fastest way to succeed, and it makes it a whole lot more fun. We would love for you to join us. You can check out the full details on the-holt.com. Or if communities aren't really your vibe and you just want access to the hundreds of expert masterclass recordings with a combined value of more than £10,000, you can access the Vault right now for just £20 per month. The Vault is all the masterclasses with none of the chat or distractions, just pure value. Visit the-holt.com/vault to sign up and start binging your way through brilliant trainings from leading experts.